Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rethink Life. Today, we're talking about idea consciousness versus belief in your view. Welcome, Betty. How are you today?
Pretty good.
Excellent. All right. So, to kick this off, let's explore the idea of the good, capital G, more consciously lived in the understanding means a continuous overturning of words as well as changing human steps. So we haven't seen anything yet. As vision clarifies, the words change, as do the mediatory steps until they disappear. But as long as words and mediatory steps or interpretations are regarded as if they were the occurrence, they cannot change. So say more about that. Let's look at, just restate that in regular language. How about?
Well, as long as you believe, as long as you believe the view that you've got going on
Yeah.
and you think it's real and you try to manipulate it to make it better, fix it, change it, manage it, organize it, all of that, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying. If you're in the mediatory steps, she calls them. If you're in the belief system that what you've got going on has got to be managed and shaped up and fixed and that it'll make the difference. We all have stuff we do, but we do it as not doing it, Like
Yeah.
I eat dinner every day. I clean the house. I do what I'm supposed to do. I run my errands.
Yeah.
I work on my stuff. But as long as I do that as yeah, that's what you do. You get up in the morning, you fix breakfast, you just allow it to be. But
Right.
if I think that the way I do that is going to make a big difference in my life, I'm stuck.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
hung up on the picture and how it looks. I'm fixing it all the time, trying to make it improved, do it a little better, say it a little differently, all that.
Right.
Uh, there's no value for me. What
Yeah.
there is busy work.
Yeah.
And the busy work blinds me to the fact that I'm doing nothing.
Right. I have an example. Let me see if this fits for what we're talking about. So remember last April, our Sprinter van got sideswiped, parked outside your complex.
Yep.
And so I tried to get a body shop. I put it through the insurance company. They gave me what they thought the estimate was based on the pictures that I sent. And then I tried to find somebody who could fix it. And in San Diego, that proved really, really difficult. The first place wanted me to return it back to a cargo van before they would touch it. And then another guy was like, never called me back. So, who evidently does all of this work for all the RVs in San Diego. I don't know how he does what he does. But at any rate, wasn't going to happen there. So I get back to Minnesota and I just got really busy. So then I start calling around and I find this place here down south that works on RVs. So I take it in. And the guy's like, perfect. We look at it and we realize that up underneath, there's a whole different thing that I never even realized was going on. And I was like, ooh, okay. And it was where the bolts kind of ripped out. So I was like, okay. And he goes, well, it's going to take a bit, but I'll get you a quote. So I waited and I had to send an email back to him the next week. And he sent me a quote and he said, well, if you do this whole part that we saw underneath, that's going to be, that you might find somebody who could do that. But basically, that's going to be like at least 10,000, maybe more to get that fixed. But if you did this other thing and we replaced this panel and we did bup, 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 it would be between 2 and 3. So he gave me a paragraph. And so I sat with that for a little bit and thought about it. And I thought, well, I want it to be fixed. Like, I don't want to just do just the one part.
Cosmetic.
Yeah. So I want it to be fixed. So I sent him back an email about 3 weeks ago and said, can you just write up the big amount as a quote, give me a, detailed estimate so I can take that back to my insurance. So anyways, 3 weeks later, haven't heard from him. And so I sent him another one saying, I'd really like to get that so I can get this moving. And he answered me back and he said, well, we're really busy. And, there's a lot going on here and we're really busy. So, I'll get you a detailed quote, but it'll be a while. And I'm sitting here going, well, shoot, in a month, we're going to be back out in California. So I was like, All right. And so then I sent him an email and I said, I've never quite, is there anyone else there I can talk to or work through? I just don't quite understand unless you really just don't want this business. But anyway, so I sat there with it and I thought, God, why is this so hard? I'm trying to get this to figure itself out and all that. And so I went in to talk to Jen and we were just talking about it. And I thought maybe I'll just take a picture of the underneath and send it to the Geico guy and the adjuster saying, hey, we found something we didn't originally see. I'm having trouble getting somebody to fix it. What can we do? And then right as I was talking to her, I thought, wait a minute, the people who installed our diesel heater, these guys just north of us on the freeway, they do all kinds of stuff with chassis and really like restoring like these old vans and stuff and doing some really cool things. So anyways, I called him up and he said, I'd be happy to take a look at it for you. So I drove it up there. 30 minutes later, he's looking at it. And we were talking and he said, well, he said the insurance companies, they want it to be factory new. Like that's how they quote it all out, is it factory new? And he said, but we could do this work. And he looked underneath and he goes, oh yeah, that's just sheet metal right where the weld is. I can see exactly what they did. We can beef that up a little bit. He said, heck, we'll beef it up so that if anything else hits this pole, if it's another motorcycle, they'll fly off their bike, but that pole will not move. And I was like, because it's a surfer pole. So anyway, so I was kind of cracking up about it, but I said, okay, I go, well, can you get me a quote so I can take to the insurance? And he goes, sure. And I said, what are we talking about anyways? And he goes, well, I think it's only about 5 hours of work. He said, I'm thinking between 600 and 750 bucks. I don't need a quote to go to the insurance company for that. It was like, oh my God. And instead of it being 13,000 plus, it's $750 and it's going to be fixed. And then there's parts that we have to get buffed out, but they're not scratches. And we can do that with an auto detailer that can buff that right out. And that's going to be like maybe another $180. So I was like, okay. I go, when can we do this work? And now we've got a schedule. We have a date. We're going to have it done before we even head out of Minnesota to San Diego. So all I'm saying is that you can fuss around. And when you let it all be and you just start looking at it, the right stuff shows up.
Answers that you hadn't found up to then.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is like, I'd stop trying to find the right solution or whatever. Instead, I just kind of went with it. And I was going to punt and give it back to the insurance company and say, who do you know that could do this work? And instead, right then, that's what showed up. And I thought, let me give him a call and see if he can do anything here. And it ended up being really, really good. They're just really cool guys that do this really cool work. But at any rate, it was a neat thing. So does that go along with what we're talking about here? Or is it completely different? It does. Okay.
Willingness to be spontaneous about it. And also willingness not to be hung up on what originally you thought.
Right.
Willing to let that go for a while and see if there's another way.
Right.
Another possibility. You stayed open, in other words.
Yeah.
And that helps. That makes a huge difference.
Okay.
Because the solution that's looking for you, which is always true when you have what's called a problem, the solution is demanding to be seen. And so the solution was able to come through, if I can use those words, because you weren't hung up on what you thought the solution should be.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. That's a wonderful example.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, then we'll continue on here with the introductory stuff. So what you see and experience is the God idea as the unfoldment of your own infinite well-being. Your language is original, spontaneous, and functional, contributing to freer, more gracious, affluent living in the human sense of things. Ask yourself, am I the understanding, the correct view, the mind that is knowing, being, perfection, wholeness, satisfaction? Or am I being what I am not? Unconscious and unnatural, nothing but a bunch of beliefs and opinions. So that's actually a really good question. I like that. So am I the understanding, the correct view, the mind, capital M, that is knowing, being, perfection, wholeness, and satisfaction? Or am I being what I'm not? which is unconscious and unnatural, nothing but a bunch of beliefs and opinions.
Yeah.
That's
And if you're straight with yourself, you can see right away that you're stumbling over yourself if that's where you are. But
yeah,
when things keep opening up for you, you can pretty well know that you're being willing for possibilities to show up. And they do show up because
right,
that's what's present.
right.
See, reality is present, and the solution is always present before the problem occurs.
Yeah.
And if you are open, the solution comes through. If you've got a bunch of stuff cluttering up the space, solution just hangs out there.
Right. Cluttered from view.
Yeah. You're blinding yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. All right. Well, I'm just going to take a little time out to say, hey, everybody who's listening, if you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to type those into the comments box. We will bring them up if we're live. We'll bring them up here and talk about them. There will be a little bit of a delay, but please participate. We love that. And if you can hit the like button or the thumbs up button, the heart button, that would be great because then we get more people watching our videos. So share. And if you're out on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. That would be terrific. And if you feel so moved, you can support us. We're sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science, which is a nonprofit organization. And the link is right up here, up there. I think I'm pointing kind of in its general direction. Anyway, right over Betty's head, you'll see support our live stream, donate $10. You can go to scientificmetaphysics.org/donate, and that helps make a difference, and it's fully tax deductible. And you can do whatever amount suits you as well. So we would appreciate any of those things. We love the tips. All right. So
this question the question that you posed just a few minutes back is from Margaret Laird's book, What is the Idea?
Right.
That's our text for this evening.
Right. And that's what we're using. That's what we're talking about here. So if we dive right in, what is the idea on page 80? Margaret Laird said, language, be it words or the incidents of daily life, will lead us astray. Yeah, the stuff you're looking at, you know, the stuff that's in your view, your language of comfort, the way reality is looking to you right now, it tells you that reality is present, but we believe that the way it looks is what that reality is, and we kid ourselves. Because it's not, it's just your current view. So you have to be sharp to let go of that view so a new view can arise. That's right. Yeah, very good. And in fact, we wander around in the world of illusion when the language is mistaken for the idea. Yeah. And then you start rearranging the furniture, wondering why nothing seems to work. Or it does work, but it's momentary. And you think, yes, and then it crumbles and you go, no. Just when I thought I had it solved. Right, exactly. And in miscellaneous writings, Margaret Laird said it this way on page 28, starting on line 2, or Mary Baker Eddy, sorry. In miscellaneous writings, Mary Baker Eddy said it this way, page 28, line 2 through 5. Perception by the 5 personal senses is mental. Yeah. And you know, we don't pay attention to those words. Perception, which means the way I'm seeing stuff. I think it's out there and that it really looks that way and it really is that way and it can dominate my life. And then this thing tells me it's all mental. Well, where's the thinking going on that's reading that and having that show up? It's right here. But I didn't make that happen. Oh, didn't I? Right, right. Now, matter can neither see, hear, feel, taste, nor smell, having no sensation of its own. And that's from What is the Idea on page 28. No. It's from miscellaneous writings. It's miscellaneous writings, page 28. I'm sorry, my bad. Yeah, and that is saying what I was just talking about. The thing that Mrs. Eddy is referring to with the word matter
is the language view. That view can neither see, hear, feel, taste, etc. It doesn't have the capacity to do that.
Right.
So we make it up. We look at it, we believe that's it, so we describe what we see. And then we think that's real. And then, how come my life isn't wonderful? How
Right.
come I can't find answers? How come I'm so mediocre in what I'm doing? Not fair.
Right.
Somebody else's fault. We do that. Human beings behave that way, and they sometimes catch themselves and get a little freedom. But when you know that, when you really understand that that's what's going on, you can stop that foolishness and get yourself right off to a good start.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in Mind is the Athlete, you say it this way on page 140. You wrote, it is difficult to single out and recognize those areas where we automatically believe or trust without deliberated rational backup.
Yep. And there's a note following that.
Yep. As areas of intuition and spirituality are opened up to inquiry, you will be discovering yourself at a whole new level. And that's where we talk about willingness and curiosity and being open.
Yeah, open to possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes a huge difference. Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Now, and what is the idea on page 81? Margaret Laird wrote, metaphysics might be defined as a science of concrete forms of consciousness.
I never had seen that particular sentence that way before.
Yeah.
You want to read that again?
Yeah, I like it. Metaphysics might be defined as the science of concrete forms of consciousness.
Yeah, but it's all consciousness.
Right.
Concrete or not.
Right.
It
But
doesn't
it's like the
yeah.
the stuff, right? And then you think this exists outside of that in some way.
And you don't know what this is, except I call it a glass.
Right.
That doesn't mean that's what it is. It's
Right.
just the way I see it.
Right.
Somebody else might say, interesting plastic or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. All right. And the discovery of atomic action, revealing the true nature of matter or substance to be mind, capital M, and the theory of relativity as existence only in relation to a thinking mind are specific examples of the spiritual evolution taking place in human thought.
Yeah. And that's, it's, I think it's almost like double talk when you try to voice or express some of these ideas. So this one was very good one that Mrs. Eddy wrote because she
Margaret Laird.
Okay, Margaret Laird, either one. But anyway, what they talk about is a metaphysical fact that they spiritually evaluate. And we think that because we look at stuff and it's our language, we forget that the language is always pointing toward a reality that's whole and perfect and concrete and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And we forget that we may not be seeing that. We're seeing our concept of what we're seeing. And we may not even be seeing what's there. We just have an opinion about it or a view of it or a way of looking that only sees one little narrow pathway.
Right.
But the whole gamut of reality is present. And so unless you are willing to entertain that, you're stuck with this narrow little stuff you've got that you believe in that leads you down the primrose path and you end up with nothing.
And that also, when you were saying that, what I was seeing for myself is that in that infinite moment,
yeah,
where all things are present and possible in that moment,
mm-hmm.
If I'm tied into my druthers and my opinions and all of that, I got what I got in the way it looks. And as soon as I open up to being willing and I open up to curiosity or the possibility, then that infiniteness becomes available and new things come to view that I couldn't see prior.
Yeah, and they're only new to your current view. They've been there
That's
the
what
whole
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like new because I didn't see it before because I had, whatever cloud in my vision, but it's not that it's not already there.
Yeah.
And it's just it's not, we think we have to work and struggle and effort to get something to go from here to there.
Or
to
else
get
you think
something
it's
to
too bad
shift.
I didn't know that 10 years ago.
Right, right. And really it's all right there, always. We just need to grow the eyes to see.
Yeah. And that takes a willingness.
Right. And that's all it takes, though.
Because we're so convinced that what we see is accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy cool stuff here. All right. And then in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy said on page 505, starting on line 9, the divine mind, not matter, creates all identities, and they are forms of mind, the ideas of spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that source of consciousness, that source of creation is divine mind. Yeah. Not matter. Cause can't live out there. That which sits in a chair doesn't think.
That's right.
Right. Something other than that shaping our ends.
Yeah. And then the key is the note right under it.
Right. Understanding is the line of demarcation between the real and the unreal.
Yeah. And it's understanding. It's not belief.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding. And you don't have to worry about that when you're willing to leave the language view alone.
Mm-hmm.
And just be a listening. Just, I know this is pointing towards something. Now, what could that be?
Right.
Just kind of an inquiring sense.
Yeah.
That's when understanding is born, if I can put it that way. But it just pours in. You just say, of course, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay. Awesome. All right. And in Mind is the Athlete on page 141, you say it this way: the reservoir inside of which all that exists or seems to exist occurs is called consciousness, universal mind, or being.
Yep.
Could you also call it the God idea?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All of those are applicable. Life, truth, love, principle, mind, soul, spirit, all of that.
All right. Okay. Awesome. All right. And then what is the idea on page 81? Margaret Laird wrote, mind is the basis from which the scientific metaphysician, spiritual psychologist, approaches his world.
Yeah. And that is to me, that's the thing that gives you confidence.
Okay.
If you can see that the intelligence functioning is universal, it's not a human brain action. Infinite mind is all pervasive, kind of like the air you breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It's present all the time, fully informed, functioning perfectly. And all you have to do is acknowledge that.
Right.
When I acknowledge that, I've opened the door. I've accessed that presence that is always there when I'm there. I think about the little kid that the teacher said, if you were out in the desert all by yourself, how would you know that God was there? And the little kid says, because I'm there.
Right.
It's the same thing. If I'm here, mind is present.
Right.
It's a matter of being and listening for it. Yeah.
All right. And in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy on 505, starting on line 21, said, understanding is the line of demarcation between the real and the unreal. I already said that.
Yeah. Oh, that got to be the note up above it. And I didn't mean it to be up there. I'm sorry.
Ah, okay. I knew it. I thought, did I miss something in here? All right. Very good. You missed something this time.
I did.
That's okay.
We needed to hear it twice.
Right. I guess so. Right. So understanding is the thing. It's not belief. It's understanding. So where you think you believe something, just know That's the booby prize. Understanding. And this other piece right here, mind is the basis from which the scientific metaphysician approaches his world. Mind is the basis. That's what's causative.
Yeah, and this next quote is the repetition, so don't bother with that.
The understanding is the reality of all things brought to light.
No, the understanding is the line of demarcation. Second
Oh,
time I said it.
yeah. Right. Yeah.
I have to do better proofreading.
That's right. All right. And then in your book, Mind is the Athlete, on page 141, you wrote, there is no partition or divisiveness in the space of reality, capital R. All is one.
Yeah. There's no compartmental living. It's like you can't divide up the air and say, this piece is mine. You can't touch it. Who you are and what you are and the all-inclusive nature of being has no boundaries. It has no walls. It has no doors or windows. It's like the air. It's everywhere. It's like space.
Yeah.
And it's the space that is my being. It's not like the space is out there somewhere. It's inseparable from who you are. It's a matter of recognition. That's why we use the word acknowledgement so much, because it is present, it is operative, it is accessible, and all it takes is the recognition. It's like somebody saying 2 + 2, and you say, I know that. Okay, well, all the metaphysical expertise possible is present when you're present.
Right.
It's not something I have to make up or figure out. I just have to be willing to have it be.
Right. And that right there is what we're pointing to with idea consciousness.
Yes.
It's the idea, not the thing. It's the idea, not the thing.
That's
it's
right.
being willing to see how that shows up, which could be any number of ways, and going forward with that and being open, being curious. That's idea consciousness versus it's got to be this way. This is what I believe. And this is what,
And that is a fabulous insight to see that. And I get to giggle sometimes when I remember how often Mrs. Laird would say, and she'd say, God's wearing a blue dress today. Same thing. It's just interesting.
Right. So whatever you believe and you hold firm to, and that's where you're stuck, if you will. That's where you're blinding yourself. Could that be a true statement said that way?
Well, you're talking about beliefs.
Right. I am. I already distinguished idea consciousness. Now I'm looking at, or belief in your view, like this is the right way. Get in line. It's this way.
Yeah. And what we do with that kind of stuff is point to the other guy and say he's wrong.
Right.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know,
Right.
But there is no such thing as a boundary or a wall or a window closed or a door closed or whatever. It's universally present all the time. And being, which speaks to every single possibility that humanity has to offer, being is the presence that accesses it all.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So whether I'm a divine being or human being accesses it all.
Well, being is all there is. Looking however it looks.
That's right.
And I'm seeing it the only way.
A square inch of not being. There isn't
right,
any.
Exactly, because all is all.
Is all. That's right.
I'll never forget that. All. It's everything. All right. So I don't see any comments. I don't see any questions. So essentially, that's it. Do you want to wrap this up with anything?
No, I've been babbling along.
All right. So it's idea consciousness. Stay with the idea. Be free about how it shows up. Be willing. Explore that between this week and next week. See what opens up for you in your life. And we'll see you next week on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Central. So we'll see you then. In the meantime, think idea consciousness, not belief, not, oh, it's got to be this way and line them up. Not that, just idea. Just be willing and allow and see what shows up. So that's it. That's your homework. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Kim. That's very nice.